I know you have a lot going on, so we appreciate your time. Everyone, we're here with ESPN college football reporter, among many, many other things, Holly Rowe. We can get started with David Hood. And again, I'll put in the chat so we can keep things rolling. Thanks, Holly.
Hey, Holly, always good to see you. It kind of surprised me. Game day has been back to Clemson, but the COVID year set up in the corner of the stadium for that Miami game. Been several away games, but this is the first time back out on Bowman Field since that Louisville game in 2016. How excited is everybody to kind of get back to that kind of normal game day atmosphere here at Clemson?
Well, I feel a lot of excitement. In fact, after practice yesterday, Dabo walked over and he saw us at practice and he said, "We must be winning if you guys are back in town." You know, like he was all excited. So I think there's a lot of excitement. Uh-oh. Hold on, let me close this door really quickly. 1 second. We've got some construction going on, no problem. So I do think people are excited, and I think that's great. You know, that was a really big game. I think that was Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, if I'm not mistaken. So like two of the Heisman finalists. So it's really cool. It's really cool that we're back and we have another game with really high level quarterbacks. There's kind of some cool similarities.
Mitchell, you can go ahead.
Awesome. Cool. I just wanted to make sure. Holly, thank you so much for your time. My name is Mitchell Summers. I'm with Fox Carolina here in Greenville, South Carolina, just up the road from Clemson. So I guess when you're coming into this game, my first question is about what are some of the beats that you guys are trying to follow for this game?
No, obviously there's a lot of good stories coming out of last week's double overtime game with Clemson. And what worked, one of the things that I followed up on is DJ Uiagalelei is his efficiency on third down. I think that he turned a corner, and it's maybe the best we've seen him in decision-making, completing passes in the biggest moments. I mean, the 2-point conversion was someone holding on to one leg in the air. That's one of the best plays that I've seen, and his ability to finish a game double overtime in really difficult circumstances on the road. So that's a story we're kind of following up on. I was able to talk with DJ this week, and I'll tell you one kind of cool thing is he's coming off arguably the best performance of his career. I know Dabo called it that in his post-game press conference, but I saw practice, really spirited, really good practice yesterday. And as I'm walking out of practice through the weight room, there's 2 kids in the weight room lifting after practice. And one of them's DJ Uiagalelei, and he's doing arm curls. And I'm just like, you know, this is a kid who went through a lot of adversity last year, but has decided to change his future. And he's putting the work in to change the future. And I really respect that.
I know another one of the stories you guys are following. You guys have done a story on Brian Braziz's the emotional journey with him and his sister. So I mean, you've gotten to see a lot of stories around college sports, and these kind of really powerful moments can bring a team together. So I'm wondering, from your experience, how have you noticed that these type of powerful stories inside a team, how much do they bond them together?
Well, first and foremost, Jen Latta is doing a really beautiful feature that you'll see on game day that she's actually been working on for a long time. So I'm excited for people to get to see more about Ella and her life. She was able to speak to the team recently. And so it's not just a tragedy that Brian is going through. This is a loss for the entire Clemson football family. You know, they've known this young woman for years, and she's been a part of this family. She's been around. They've been all supporting her during her battle. And so I do think it's an emotional loss for everyone. I do think it was really special for him to come back and play in that game. And, you know, I actually rewatched the game again last night, and he's got this white tape, you know, down both of his arms that says Ella Strong. And in these moments when he's making these big plays, and that defense had to hold up in overtime, that's what won the game in overtime, was the defensive pressure that caused a poor throw. And I see his arms and straining in these moments with Ella Strong down his arms. I mean, I just started crying, and I know that took a lot out of him to come back and play, but I think it was cathartic for him and for his family to celebrate and work hard in that moment. And it was really beautiful and special. But I think it is a galvanizing moment for this whole team because they all knew her. They all loved her. She was a part of the fabric of this Clemson football family.
Hi, Holly. This is Grayson Mann from ClemsonSportsNews.com. I feel like since 2016, this Clemson-NC State matchup has really caught the eyes of the nation, whether you have Bradley Chubb and Kelly Bryant with the towel or wide right. When you guys do research for this game, how do you feel like this rivalry has evolved over time?
I think regionally, it's one of the biggest rivalries in college sports. I don't know if you live outside of the Carolinas, you're like all geeked up for NC State Clemson, but I have learned, because I've done now 2 of these games. This will be my 3rd NC State Clemson game in the last decade. And I just know it's really high level football. I think that a lot of people around the country sleep on NC State. I don't know that they give them their credit. Dave Doran has established a really quality, consistent program. And I was watching their game. I watched their last 2 games. This was against Texas Tech. And I was watching a play on the quarterback where they sacked the quarterback, and it was 6 guys around the quarterback. The next play, they tackle a running back. It's 4 guys around the running back. So I think this NC State brand of football is swarming and fun. And I just think this is going to be a crazy good game. And I don't know if you live west of the Mississippi, if you understand how important this game is. But I mean, this is probably for the ACC. I mean, this is very likely for the ACC divisional title. So I know Florida State's still looking really good, still undefeated, and Clemson will play them moving ahead. But NC State and Clemson this weekend, I think is the biggest thing in college football, really. Outside of maybe Kentucky and Ole Miss, I think is another really big game.
Hey, Holly. Excuse me. Chapel Fowler with the State newspaper. Thanks for doing this. What's kind of your assessment of Clemson as a college football playoff contender so far this year? And I guess what would a win on Saturday kind of do from your point of view to, boost them to that level, which obviously they missed out on last year?
Yeah, I want to see them with my own eyes first before I make an assessment, or, I really like to see teams in person before I decide how good they are, because how big they are, how quick they are. I saw stuff at practice yesterday that I was like, oh, I had no idea that kid could move like that, or I had no idea that kid could cover like that. So I think it's too early for me to really say. I want to see Clemson in action in the game. But if DJ plays like he's playing and the playmakers around him, I heard Dabo say something that I thought was very true, even if it's hard to hear, as it wasn't just DJ last year. They weren't very good around him. And as he lost confidence, the team continued to struggle. So I think DJ has some better players and better weapons around him. He has this really fun connection with his high school teammate, Bo Collins. They made some plays Saturday that were just like, okay, chemistry, I see it. But I think that Clemson is probably a college football playoff contender every year, because that's the type of consistency recruiting program that Dabo Swinney has built. Last year was kind of an anomaly. And I think they'll be in the conversation. I just don't know how good they are yet until I see them with my own eyes on Saturday against a really quality opponent in NC State.
Hey, Holly, it's David again. So in your mind, give me 1 or 2 keys for each team that, they have to do this to be able to win the game.
Okay, so this isn't a sexy answer, but both teams have to affect the quarterback. I think really in some cases, the strength of both of these teams is their defensive front and their ability to get pressure on the quarterbacks. I think NC State's defense is really phenomenal. I was just watching that game. They played UConn most recently, but Texas Tech game caught my eye because I know Texas Tech is a pretty good team, and they dominated. They controlled that game. They affected the quarterback. I think that was really important. They forced turnovers. And so I think whichever team is able to affect the quarterback the most will win this game. And conversely, Clemson's defensive front hasn't been completely healthy all year. They've had guys in and out for a variety of reasons. They do have a ton of quality depth there. And watching practice, they have a lot of guys that I think are kind of back to their roles, looking really good. Tyler Davis is one of my favorite players. And I think, he showed you last week what he can do, but I think that he's someone that can impact this game. And I just think who puts the most pressure on the quarterback, that's really, really big, because from that comes turnover opportunities. The best thing, KJ Henry told me this, and I thought this was a good quote. The best thing we can do to help out our secondary is get pressure on the quarterback, right? Make his throws less comfortable. And so you all know the secondary struggled last week. Everybody saw that. But the defensive front is taking that very personally, and they know they can do a better job there. And I will say, I went to practice Thursday, and the secondary had a really, really good practice. While I was standing there, I didn't watch the defense the whole time, but while I was standing there, they had 6 interceptions. It was really spirited, really good practice. So how they rebound, I think, is a huge deal in this game.
Hey, Holly, Grayson Mann, Clemson Sports News again. Through the first 4 games last year with Clemson, and now first 4 games this year, I find it actually pretty ironic that both games were on the road against an ACC team that went to overtime. But when you're watching these games and you watch last year's, what would you say is the most noticeable difference between these two Clemson teams?
Well, I think DJ's play. I think DJ, he was really honest with this week. He said, I look back on that loss last year to NC State, and there's so much I wish I would have done differently. There's so much I wish I would have been better at. I didn't play well. He's really honest. He says that I didn't play well. I didn't prepare well enough. And so I think the biggest difference is going to be quarterback. And, you hate to put all the blame and all the praise on one position, but when DJ is playing and making decisions like he did last week, that is a huge change for Clemson. It's not necessarily the efficiency, it's the decisions of what, when, and his third down efficiency. I think third down is another thing. Whoever asked me some of the things that will be important in this game, third down efficiency and conversion rate is a big, big deal, because Clemson is one of the best in the country right now converting on third down, but NC State is one of the best in the country of not allowing that to happen, because their defense has been so good, and they've been very good in the red zone.
Hi, Holly. It's Jason Priester from Clemson Sports Illustrated. Clemson's defense was led by the high energy Brent Venables for so long. Now Wes Goodwin's in charge. You've been to a practice. What are some of your initial impressions of Wes Goodwin?
Well, I think their practice was good. It was high energy. Of course, Wes is not back there running the scout team quarterback. I know that for sure. That was one of my favorite things about Brent Venables, is he used to be like, I can do it so much better than I can tell you about it. And so he would often be the scout team quarterback, and he was so good at it. I remember leading up to some of the national championships, Venables was the scout team quarterback, and it was just amazing. So Wes is not running scout team quarterback. That's a big change. But I will tell you, the energy at practice was impressive. I liked the energy. It's just different styles. And I think that's okay, that, different people, different folks have their own different style. And so far, I've only watched a couple of the Clemson games this season, but I don't think he has his own get back coach. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that anyone's pulling him by the belt back to the sidelines. I could be wrong. We'll see Saturday. I'm not sure.
Holly, I know through 4 games, Clemson's offense has been playing really well. They're the 13th highest scoring offense in the country. Of course, a big part of that is DJ taking a step up. But I wonder, of course, they had a big test this last weekend. But I'm wondering how much at this point you have faith that this is like one of the premier offenses in college football again.
Again, I just feel like it's too early to tell. I think a lot of people in this country are 4-0 right now. And some of that's based on their opponents. So I do think there's a lot of room for optimism. I see a better, more explosive, exciting offense from Clemson. Obviously, this is the most points they've scored through 4 games in Dabo's tenure. So on paper and with the points, you could say that. I think that they're going to face a really good defense this week. So I'd love to circle back and answer this question next week, because I think NC State will tell us how good Clemson's offense is, because I believe in their defense. I think NC State's defense is really good.
Anything else for Holly? Well, thank you all. Thank you, Holly. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you all for taking the time. That's very kind of you, and I appreciate it very much. So thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
see you guys. See you out there.
Thanks, Holly.
Everybody stay safe.